Hello everybody, this is GoG73 and welcome to a retrospective look at the original Ultraman show. It's been a while since the completion of the Color Timer Reviews' first season, and now that the original show is done, it's time to share my own experience watching it, as well as look back on the other aspects of the show, such as its aging, impact, and the parts about it that could have either been changed or altered for convenience purposes. Think of this video as both a season finale and an overall summary for the first series from my perspective. Now first off, the best way I can sum up the original series in terms of overall enjoyability is fun and inventive, but noticeably dated. Now unlike the Godzilla fandom with the series' first film, I'm not going to grovel all over this show simply because it was the first of its kind. Don't get me wrong, it's a great show by all means, but at the same time, it does have some blatant flaws in places that have since then either been rectified in later shows, or left untouched for reasons I'm assuming are esoteric, or just plain laziness. To further explain what I mean, let's break down what's good and what's bad about this show. The pros of the series is its ingenuity, for its time, monster designs, and its special effects. The idea that a group of specially trained soldiers that fight off monsters and aren't relegated to just being military fodder is pretty cool. Thanks to a tip from my good friend and series illustrator JW, the closest superhero team I can think of to compare them to is the original Suicide Squad from the Silver Age of comics. But as far as hero teams that do that in film and television, the various Ultra teams seem to be a trope of their own. They're not overly comical like Ghostbusters or Men in Black, but they're also not overly serious like the Justice League or the X-Men. They're the right blend of silly and serious to the point where I can't really compare them to any other fictitious teams that I know of, at least at the time of this video. The monsters of the show, despite having a few flubs here and there, also range from being out of this world, pun completely intended, to creative and challenging, to being simple yet memorable and likable. And each of them feel like something that would appear out of Godzilla or even Gamera if given enough time. Unquestionably though, the highlight of the show are the special effects. Coupled with the monster action, watching these effects in the series makes it feel very much like watching an unofficial spin-off of Godzilla. Which makes sense considering that it's made by one of the guys who brought Godzilla to life in the first place. None of them feel too out of place, and when they do stray towards the cheap side, it doesn't really feel like it's being insulting, but more or less done under circumstances, if that makes any sense. On the other hand, though, the cons with this series has to be the flimsy characterization, some of the plots not being fully developed, and a somewhat flimsy continuity in the show. Characterization is sort of a double-edged sword. Having each member of the team having its own personality is admittedly pretty helpful, as it gives each member of the team their own identity. But despite the whole specially trained monster-killing team being fresh for its time, I unfortunately have to say that character development is not one of the show's stronger suits. The characters soon become tiresome when their same shtick gets repeated time after time, and the most frustrating aspect is that no one on the show truly learns anything. For example, "This is all your fault! You're a great member. Take one for the team!" Whose fault is this again? Monsters are sympathetic. "Get on that goddamn ship or I'm gonna kick your ass!" "Don't shoot the monster!" "I won't shoot the monster." "I gotta shoot the monster!" I like pearls. Like I said, character development is not one of the show's better qualities. Yes, there are some moments here and there, but they're mostly sandwiched between asinine stuff like what I just mentioned. Additionally, about half of the plots in these series are also not really fleshed out. I've given several examples of what I mean, so for convenience sake, here's a list of the episodes for all of you to watch, so re-explaining what I mean won't take too much time. To make a long story short, small and sometimes big changes could have made some of these episodes stand out more, and make them much more entertaining and interesting than what they actually wound up becoming. A classic case of coulda, woulda, shoulda, but didn't. Also, for anybody who thinks I may have been a little harsh at times with some of these reviews, I can safely say, having counted all of the episode scores individually, I've discovered that there were more positively rated episodes than there were negative, as seen here. With this all said, going back to how I describe the overall enjoyability of the series, I reiterate, fun and inventive, but noticeably dated. Therefore, here is a quick top 5 list of episodes that are both my favorite and the ones I recommend watching in this series. Number 5, Human Specimens 5 and 6. A creepy alien with a creepy scheme. Despite not being as popular as Alien Baltan, this is one alien invasion story that gets the point across much more efficiently and entertainingly. Number 4, Farewell Ultraman. A drama-fueled climax that keeps you on edge with a bittersweet ending to boot. Despite having the highest available rating though, it's best to watch it once you've watched the rest of the series, or enough of it before watching this one. Number 3, The Littlest Hero. An episode that had great character moments and all of the elements needed for an even better series finale, but sadly hindered by cheaper special effects, underutilized monster, and said elements never being taken full advantage of. Number 2, The Prince of Monsters, both parts. Apart from some very bad characterization from the Science Patrol, the solid character development of Osamu, the classic kaiju rampaging in a city formula that only Eiji Tsuburaya can deliver, and the sheer unstoppable force that is Gomorrah, with the addition of Ultraman's first official loss, easily puts this episode at one of the top spots, just behind number 1, The Lawless Monster Zone. A mixture of mystery, adventure, and kaiju galore, with a prison survival-like vibe, some great kaiju action, both big and small, and the characterization not being violated by the flaws in later episodes, this episode takes my number 1 spot as the best episode in the original series. And because there's enough of them for a list as well, here's a bottom 5 list of episodes that I don't recommend watching. Number 5, The Endless Counterattack. As generic as an episode can get that runs the cycles, uninteresting subplot, monster shows up, military is powerless, and Ultraman stops it, with an environmental message shoehorned for good measure. Number 4, Terror on Route 87. A misguided episode with a terrible moral. It's okay for innocent people to die if a little boy is killed in a hit and run. Number 3, The Terrifying Cosmic Rays. All kids are psychopaths that get away with attempted murder, and a monster that's done nothing wrong pays the price for their psychotic tendencies. Number 2, The Pearl Oyster Defense Directive. A very sluggish episode that is a product of its time, filled with blatant sexism, a very boring monster, and one of the most disappointing climaxes in the series. And number 1, The Monster Graveyard. A mean-spirited episode that pretends to be sympathetic to please people who like the monsters, but unlike the rest of the bad episodes here, it's also one that provides world building that needs to be seen to understand later events in the later shows. And thus ends Season 1 of the Color Timer Reviews. I hope you all enjoyed the series and got something out of it, and for anyone who's wondering if I will continue the series, I will, eventually. Until then though, keep your eyes open for what I have in store for the future. See you then!